Disclaimer. You're about to listen/watch a podcast hosted by a group of friends who tend to use vulgar language and profanity, and also enjoy pounding adult beverages. Viewer discretion is advised. Lastly, we may be making some bold statements. All views and statements made in this podcast do not reflect the views of any sponsors, guests, followers, or any supporters of this podcast. So be cool and don't get offended. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy.
Oh my gosh!
Alright, welcome everyone. This is going to be episode 2 of bench racing, right? That's what we call it. Joining us,
Yes.
of course, is Taylor and Mike, part of the crew. And to help us talk about Chargers, our friend Chris Patterson, up in one of the blocks. Say hi, Chris.
Yeah. Hi.
Chris is extremely knowledgeable in lots of different realms of the RC hobby, especially Chargers. And we thought it was perfect to bring him on. One of our local racers, and he kicks ass. And yeah, I will stop my bit there. Taylor, would you like to take the floor from here?
I wasn't prepared for this. I thought we were giving it to Chris. I'm sorry.
Okay, then we'll give it to Chris. All right,
Yeah.
Chris.
Questions. What would you like to know?
What would you recommend? So let's say you have brand new person to RC, like literally have nothing. They don't even have a Traxxas RTR charger. They want to get into racing. We'll just say 8th scale, hypothetically. And they're like, "What charger should I get? What's your recommendation?" I mean, obviously you're not gonna have one specific charger, I don't think, but like, what way are you gonna lead them?
I would lean them more towards a 120 volt plug-in charger as opposed to a 12 volt fed power supply charger, just for ease of operation. You plug it in, you plug your leads in, you can charge a battery. When you start getting into the higher end needing a power supply charger, then there's more equipment than you're gonna have to buy. You're gonna have to buy, like I said, the power supply, more cabling and things like that. And most of the time, those chargers are more expensive as well. So to keep it cheaper and easy, a 120 volt plug-in charger would be best to start with.
Do you have a specific brand or anything in mind? I know there's a lot of really good chargers on the market right now, and a lot of budget-friendly ones too that fit everything you need.
Yeah, I would say probably the better of the 12 volt beginning ones, probably around like the $120-$130 would be the Genzace, the D300. EcoPower makes one. It's the same thing. It's kind of made by Genzace. RC Toolkit RC makes a couple. Those are good brands. They're good choices. For around, like I said, around the $120-$130 mark.
Now, beyond that, I know there's like the 4 charge, like the charger that'll do 4 batteries at once, charger that'll do 2 batteries, and of course charger that'll only do 1. Which way would you try to lean someone in that realm?
It all depends on what they're running. If you're just going to stick with 1 or 2 classes, I would probably just get the dual output charger. But if you're looking to do like an A-scale buggy, a truggy, and maybe a short course, something that runs like 4S's and then maybe a 2S, then I would look into more something like that, the Toolkit RCs, like the 4-port charger, where you can do different batteries on different ports at the same time. So you're not trying to go back and forth between leads to charge different batteries and changing
Sure.
settings.
Sure.
How do you
Just
know
quick-
if each channel is going to be powerful enough to charge the batteries, whether it's 2S or 4S?
How do you know if they're going to be more like powerful enough?
Yeah, let's break down the specs
So,
for converting like a single output charger to like a 4-channel.
if you're, what do you mean, like chart like single channel to 4? Like, oh, so you want to know like how to figure out whether you would want a single to a 4?
Some chargers,
It-
their ratings might be based on like a single output, but then at charging
Yeah.
for 4 channels at once simultaneously, it lowers the wattage or amps, depends on what rating you're looking at.
Yeah, so if you're looking to, I would say, like I said, for normal racing that we do, anything around like the 2 to 400 watt, per channel, or I mean, the D300, the Gens Ace, it does 300 watts regular plug-in mode, like 120 volt, and then you split that among the two, so it would be 150 watts per channel. So the way that works is to do the amperage output for your batteries is you would take the wattage, which would be 150, and then you would divide that by the nominal voltage of the battery of what you're trying to charge. So if it was a 2S, you would do 150 watts divided by 8.4 volts, which is what the fully charged LiPo would be. And that would give you the maximum amperage that you could charge that battery out of that port. Now, there's also specs for those chargers that will limit that amount of amperage. So it could just be a 15 amp times 2. So if it's 15 amps by 2, it doesn't matter how much the wattage to the voltage. It could say that it would do 30 amps. Charger's only going to give you 15 amps. So you kind of got to watch that because you're going to get different amperage for higher cell batteries. So like a 4S or a 6S divided into that nominal voltage divided into the 150 is going to give you a lower amperage. So if you want to do an 8S battery, it could only give you like a maximum of like maybe 6 or 7 amps. That's all that charger is going to be able to charge that at. Even if you set it to 30 amps, it's only going to give you 6 or 7 because that's all the charger can do. So you got to kind of look at the wattage range and what you're going to be charging to determine how many amps you can actually charge.
And this comes kind of full circle back to like the battery talk, to where like we're talking 1C, 2C charge rates. Like for the most
Right.
part, when you're looking at a charger, you always want to be, in my opinion, you want to buy a charger that you can always 1C charge rate your batteries. 'Cause at that point, anything under 1C, it's going to take too long to charge a single battery. So
You kind of
Chris's math there is really nice to have.
I'm sorry. You kind of touch on something too that I'd like to break down for people that might not understand is input voltage for the charger, whether it's DC or AC. We should probably break that down a little bit. And when you look at specs for chargers, also understand that most of the time advertised specs for charging rates are always at the highest max input voltage for the charger too. So whether it's like a 24 volt charger, 16 volt AC, DC, do you want to break those down for some of the listeners, Chris?
So if you, for the most of the time, like I said, when you get a charger, it'll have the two different rates. It'll have a power supply voltage in, which would be the DC voltage in, or it would have the 120 volt AC voltage in. So the power supply voltage in, the DC voltage, is going to give you higher wattage because it's relying on an outside source power supply. So if you bought, like the Motive RC or the Phantom RC little power supply that kind of look like a computer power supply that they repurpose, that is the voltage that the charger is going to use to charge the batteries. So it can be a higher rating because it has its own power supply or an off-board power supply that's more powerful. So when you use a 120 volt, it's going to use the power supply that's built into the charger. It's not going to be that big. It's not going to be that powerful. That's why that rating is lower. So when you're using the smaller power supply, it just can't use it. It just can't handle the amount of power at the higher ratings as what you would use for an external power supply. So that's why the ratings are different. For ease of operation, like I said, the 120 volt is going to be better for a beginner. But once you get into racing more and you want the extra power, you want to be able to discharge and charge batteries faster to lower internal resistances and things like that. A power supply charger or DC input is going to be the route that you want to go.
Are there any other specs that you look at when you're shopping for a charger?
The main spec that I look for is the balance current.
That's actually, if you
that's-
didn't mention, I was going to say, what about the balance circuit? So I'm glad you touched on that. So
See, that's interesting
Yeah,
to me because I've
the-
never paid attention to that.
this is
No.
where that time takes for charging batteries for so long.
Okay.
When you
Yes.
have Jim Lonzo standing over your shoulder telling you to put more amps into it, more amps, but you can't because the balance circuit limits it.
Hey, that didn't happen.
So the balance current is the amount of current that it will use to top off the cells. So some chargers will push voltage in through the balance leads to charge the individual cells. There aren't many that do that. Most of them pull voltage out of cells while it's charging through the main leads. So the balance current is, so once all the cells, say you have a 4-cell battery and they're slightly out of balance, so it's going to do all of the cells to make sure that they're the same. So it'll charge the battery until one of those cells reaches the voltage that you need, whatever it's 8.4, say. Or it's not going to be 8, it's going to be 4.2 per cell. So it'll charge that to 4.2, and then say 3 other cells are maybe 4.1 or whatever. It can only charge as much as it can take out of that full cell. So the actual balance current, say it's 1 amp on the charger, it will pull 1 amp worth of power out of the one cell fully charged while pushing 1 amp into the battery to top the other ones up to make it that level. So the lower that amperage number is, the longer it's going to take to balance charge.
Bless you.
Interesting. Thanks.
I got
I didn't even.
a question, a little bit off of what we were just talking about, but like, Chris, I know I saw you do it, like with saddle packs and shit. You make your leads to where you can charge two cells at the same time that you're gonna running your 8 scale of whatever sort. What do you feel you benefit from that compared to just plugging each 2 cell into a different port?
Just easier. To be honest, I have an e-buggy and an e-truggy, and both run saddle pack 2Ss. So I need 2 batteries at a time for the buggy and 2 batteries at a time for the truck. I don't want to run a 4-port charger to run 4 batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So I just run a 2-port charger to charge 2 batteries wired as a 4S to just save space and ease of charging.
That makes sense.
Seems like it just complicates it less than like a parallel board. So you just have one big
Yeah.
lead that ties them together.
Yeah. Well, a parallel board also, I don't like parallel boards because you plug 2 batteries into a parallel board, it takes 2 cells and it overlays them. So it's not a true balance. It's more of, it's got 2 cells, they average out the voltage, and then they charge those. So one cell could be slightly higher than the other cell that's on that parallel, but it will read a good voltage. So I don't like paralleling for that reason, like a charge board. So that's why I wire my charge leads as individual. So it reads every single cell individually on the 2S batteries, so that when it does the balance charging, every cell is the same.
I once had an issue with a parallel board, and it had fuses in between each one. of the
Yeah.
ports, but the balance ports are all connected. So one of the fuses popped in between one of the leads, and one of the batteries wasn't getting enough voltage through the main charge lead. So it was pumping a whole bunch of more amps into the first battery. But luckily, I caught that because I watch my batteries while they're charging.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that could happen, and that's why I don't like doing the whole, while charging boards. It just something could go wrong. Most of the time, it won't, but something could, like you said, your fuse popped, and it would just you wouldn't know. The batteries don't know what to do. The charger doesn't know what to do. It's just pumping voltage because of what it's seeing. So it could potentially cause a fire.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Chris, in all of your research and everything that you've done with chargers and all that, is there anything like industry wise that there may be specs or something displayed across chargers that may be not necessarily accurate from brand to brand or charger to charger? Or is everything like black and white math, wattage, like it is what it is? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, is there something that somebody may
I don't
inflate something over here, but it's different, but it means something different, or whatever,
I don't think you can really inflate to change like batteries with the whole burst or the whatever
Yeah, the
it
C
can
ratings or
output.
whatever. Yeah.
The C ratings, like you can't really do that with chargers. It's more along the lines of if they're giving you the wattage of what it can output, whether they lie about that or not, it's on them. They can't really. There's no way to regulate that. They can tell you that it's going to put out 400 watts or 300 watts or whatever, but it's just on their electronics whether it will actually do it or not. It's kind of one of those things where you just have to do it and try it. But yeah, there's nothing really industry wide that can be fudged.
I've
Okay.
seen some things,
Aware of it,
not
yes.
necessarily fudged, but it's skeptical because some chargers advertise their charging rates with like a really high input voltage of like say 30 volts or something like that. So, and how many people really have a 30 volt power supply? Mine goes up to
Yeah,
26, and not too many people go higher than that. Uh,
right.
that's one of the things too is how many times will you walk around the pits and see somebody that's got a $350 iCharger, but they're running it off of a 12 volt power supply? To me, it kind of defeats the purpose of having such a high, powerful capacity charger, which it does have a lot of nice specs and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I could bring my $120 Gens Ace charger that's AC, just plug it in, and be just about as capable of charging rates as their iCharger on a 12 volt power supply almost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is why, like, even when I race, and I know Mike does as well because we kind of run the same charger. It's so easy to just use that and not worry about it. You know what I mean? Just the 120 volt, and you're just as capable as everybody else for the most part. But like you said, when you want to get into like doing lower IRs and things like that, your iCharger with a 30 volt power supply is gonna dominate overall for charge rates, speed, everything else. Just kind of what you want to do.
Did you ever get into pumping in a whole bunch of amps and batteries and then lowering them with a high discharge rate, things like that, Chris, or no?
I have not. I have never done that. I've never really had a need to do that. They do it a lot in stock racing, whether it's 17.5 buggy or touring car, things like that. A lot of drag racers do that as well, just to lower that internal resistance to get that burst and that power that they need out of the battery. But I've never really needed it. I've never really tried it either.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you guys ever tried that?
No.
I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Taylor
I
did a bunch of drag racing stuff, so.
Yeah, that's what got me started in RC was drag racing stuff. So that was the biggest thing is battery tech and all that, and you're going through a ton of batteries, and you're going to waste a whole bunch just to get a couple extra hot runs out of a battery. And batteries at that time, when I was doing it, sometimes if you wanted the hottest battery, you're paying around $300 a battery,
Jesus.
and then you're going to pump 40 amps into it. You're going to take 30 amps out of it. You're going to be heating that thing with either tire warmers or a heat gun before the race, lower the IRs, and it makes a big difference. But when it comes to off-road racing, which is probably our general viewership, I think it's a completely worthless idea. I'd rather just save your battery for longevity. You'll never notice it.
I would
Right,
imagine a lot of it's come down with
100%.
just.
I would rather have
What were you saying, Mike?
that, Mike.
Oh, I was gonna say it's probably just because it's mod versus stock though too. It's like, a, mod typically has more power than you'd ever need. You know what I mean? So you don't really need a hot battery. Or
Right.
bad term, not necessarily like hot to the touch, but you know what I mean. But Chris, what were you gonna say? We kind of talked over each other.
No, I was gonna say I would just rather, like Taylor said, I would rather have the battery, I'd rather have a healthy battery, so that I know that I'll be able to make a 8 or 10 minute main on an A scale vehicle because they're bigger, they're heavier, they need the life of a battery to withstand that. To me, there's no point in heating up, lowering IRs, and all that. I mean, if you have a lower mAh battery that you're trying to stretch for time, I understand overcharging a little bit if that's what you want to do. It's not safe, but if that's what you want to do, great. That's on you. But I would rather have a healthy battery to last me the amount of time that I need for a main and not worry about damaging it.
Right.
Do you normally charge it like a 1C charge rate like me and Mike, or do you have different views on that?
Charge at 1.5. I always look at the battery though. I look at the battery to see what manufacturer says that you can charge the battery up to. A lot of them say 1C, 1.5, or 2C is what their acceptable charge rate is. I always charge mine at 1.5C. So, the batteries I run are between 6 and 7,000 mAh. So, normally 9 to 10 amps, but I don't go over that. I don't go 2C or anything like that.
Yeah. I charge everything at 15 or 20 amps, no matter what it is. I never did the research of C rating or 1C to 2C and what that translates to with your milliamp. I just set the fucking thing at like my A scale batteries are 20 amps and my 10 scale batteries are 15, and then like if it's like a little puffy or something, I'll bump it down to 10 or less amps, But I want that bitch charged
Wait till
now.
it's puffy.
I don't care. Boost that bitch.
I had a couple batteries at 412 about a month ago. They were a couple seasons old. They look like the Hindenburg. I promptly put them by. I promptly put them by the garbage can, scarcely, and took them with me and disposed of them after the end of the day.
What do you think caused that, Chris?
I don't know. I don't want to call out the manufacturer by name of what they were, but it seems like the stick pack that they made in that size. The first set that I had, they puffed really bad after the first time I used them, and I bought a new set, and they puffed really bad on the first charge at 1C. So it was just something that their batteries are doing. It didn't hinder the performance at all, but safety wise, I would like my batteries to stay flat and not be round. So
That's pretty lame.
Yeah. So
Is there a
I
potential
don't
that's
know what really caused.
something within the chemistry of the battery itself just is releasing more gases?
Possible. I mean, it could be that their battery case is so sealed that any little gas that gets out or anything like that helps puff even more, even though the gas is inside the cells. But it could be
Mhm.
something weird like that. But just no, I have no idea what did it. Like I said, it didn't hinder the performance of them at all, and they worked great. It's just sometimes you get sketched out when you see something like that, and you're like, yeah, I don't know how safe that is. So
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with their 4S packs or their shorty packs or anything else. It's just that full stick pack of one size did it, and I don't use them anymore.
To me, it kind of sounds like a manufacturer issue. Just a bad batch, or just
Yeah,
the manufacturer messed up the cells or something.
correct. And we all, I
So,
mean, everybody, most people know that the batteries are made by like two or three different companies with different names on them. There's some companies that make their own, but
Yeah.
it could just be an outside manufacturing problem.
No, from what I understand, it's mostly all like the one or two manufacturers in the world that make lithium batteries, and then just the companies we purchase from do the quality control parts, from what I've heard and
Right.
understand. I mean, I have no facts to base this on, so don't don't take me as the gospel, but
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I don't either,
Alex.
but
Hmm?
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, Alex. I think there is some truth to that because you look at like his name is Danny at SMC, right? And so like before he switches manufacturers, he'll get his batches in, he'll run his tests, and say yay or nay.
right. No,
Um,
there's definitely truth
yeah.
to it, but to what
So
degree,
like
I don't know.
whoever, yeah, I don't know if every manufacturer does the same quality control that say SMC does or um what have you, but
I could
no,
speak to this. That companies like SMC do some assembly and quality control in house. Max Amps and some other U.S. brand companies also do that. And you'll get a little bit better quality of a battery because sometimes when they're assembling them in house, they'll do different things like have bigger solder tabs, larger gauge wire inside of the battery connecting the cells, things like that, and overall better packaging. Some of the ones that are assembled on a pretty large assembly line over in China, like there's some large companies, and I'm not going to say any names or anything, but I'm sure everybody knows large scale manufacturers of batteries. They'll just order them from overseas and they just come as they are. And I don't believe that they do any in house quality control there.
I will say, I agree with you, Taylor, but I will say the GNB batteries, Gonang, or however you say it, they are like fucking excellent batteries in my opinion for being super cheap and super overseas. They are pretty killer for what they are. I mean,
It it's kind of been verified that some of these Chinese companies, the GMB, China Hobby Line, known as CNHL, and I'm trying to think of the other one here. Escape my mind. I believe Scott Lenig, I think, told me about it. I can't remember the name, but they're all coming from the same manufacturer that some of
right,
these really large scale manufacturers order from,
right,
and it's pretty easy to spot when it's the same exact battery case but a slightly different sticker.
right.
Not always. I'm not saying they always are, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's like basically every other consumable product in the world. Like you got great value rice and then you got Minute Maid rice. Like it's the same fucking thing, just in a different colored box.
Mhm. But I'll go back to why you should probably sometimes order from the large scale manufacturer is if you order from your local hobby shop though, and you have a problem with your battery, at least you have a chance of some sort of warranty
Yeah.
compared to ordering overseas, waiting a month, 2 months for your batteries, and being SOL if you have any type of problems.
Yeah, it's way easier to go through your local hobby shop for warranty things compared to trying to reach out to the company themselves, especially if they are one of these overseas manufacturers. Because now, let alone time zones being a thing, like you absolutely have to send an email or whatever their form of communication is. And then there's going to be a language barrier too, so then you have to sort through that through email, and it can turn into a pain in the ass compared to going to ACS or LCRC. Like, hey, I just bought this a week ago. Like, my first race at LCRC, I bought a battery there, and the next day a cell died, and I went up to Krista and I said, hey, remember I was here yesterday morning? She's like, yeah. And I said, this battery has a dead cell. And she's like, give me a second. She called Kevin. Kevin checked it, saw the dead cell. She's like, okay, here's a new battery. Done. Like, really easy compared to this battery has a dead cell. Send. And then you get an email 4 days later saying, can we see the battery on a charger? And then you put the battery on a charger and take a picture. Here it is. Send. And you wait 3 more days. And they still may or may not even do anything about it at that point. So,
going back
but
to
your old battery had a dead
oh.
cell. You would have had to chassis slam it on the ground.
well, no, I had 2 battery issues. I had 2 battery issues that weekend. Because
okay.
The one battery, if you pressed on the top of it, it was like a fucking on-off switch built into the 4-cell. You pressed the top of it, and it would turn off, and then you pressed it again, it would turn on. And it was either Chris or Mike that found that issue, because Chris had my ESC like torn completely apart, and he was like resoldering some shit on the board, complete new wires and the whole 9, and still having the issue. But
I think it was definitely Chris, because I remember that being shown to me. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. He picked it up afterwards and slammed it and said, look, it shut off.
Going back to being like a tech podcast for viewers, Alex, how did you know that battery had a dead cell?
My charger. My
Tell me more.
My iCharger, anyone that has an iCharger, it shows you each cell. And it showed like 1, 2, and 4. The 3rd cell didn't show anything, like not even 0. It just didn't recognize it because it's labeled. It does 8 cells, so there's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it'll show you the voltage for each cell. And on that charger that I bought at LCRC, said dead cell. And I bought another one. I still use it to this day. Haven't had a problem with it. And then we really struggled finding the issue with the other battery that would shut off when you press the top of it, because it didn't have any dead cells. And so I got it warranted, like no problem at all, but to show proof, I had to take a video of it plugged into my charger, and in the video you'd see my hand press on the on the battery, and then on the charger all the voltage and the cells would go blank. And then I'd press it again, and then they'd come back to whatever voltage and stuff they were. So, with my I think iCharger's like one of the best, biggest and baddest chargers. I mean, they're a pretty penny, don't get me wrong, but I've had mine for 8 years, and it does so many things I don't even know about yet. So,
I'll definitely agree to that.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things, is you can see, like, one cell is going to be at 4.199. The next cell might be at 4.201, and then 4.9. It tells you exactly to like the 3rd decimal what each cell's at. And that's really nice to know for your life of your battery, or if you have like the slight puff we talked about on our battery episode, where you're wondering how the life is of the battery, and if it's only 0.1 off or less, you're probably fine, but if my battery says like 4.2 and then 4.05, and I, cycle on the balance only setting and it doesn't change, then to the trash that battery goes. I can see that with my charger. I know some other chargers don't do that.
Chris, do you want to elaborate at all on chargers doing internal resistance or anything like that for viewers?
Really not much. I mean, some chargers, like Alex said, the iChargers does it.
Yeah.
A lot of brands do it, but the lower brands kind of shy away from it because it's just more data that they don't want to put into the software of their charger. But yeah, you can cycle through and on most of the chargers, and it'll show you the different cell voltages and the different internal resistance. You kind of want your cells' internal resistance to be kind of matched, and you want them to be, the lower that they are, they're going to give you more punch, they say. more power. But yeah, the I would say the better the high end chargers are going to give you all of that data that you need, and you can use that to diagnose things on your car, whether you're losing power quickly and all that. You can check to see if you have a couple cells that are dropping voltage faster than the other ones after your run. You can plug your battery in, you can check all the voltages and see if everything's kind of in the same realm, or if you have something that's completely out of whack that's kind of throwing your voltage off. So it is a good thing for diagnostics to have in a charger, to have, for your battery health, and, to see what's going on with what you're doing.
Now, question for all you guys. Do you have any belief that a charger over time just loses its ability to properly balance batteries?
I've never experienced anything like that, so I genuinely don't know.
I too have. I've never experienced it. I don't think that over time it would. That's not to say that it wouldn't. But I've never seen it. I've never experienced it.
So
I've also never experienced it. I'm trying to think through the functions of a charger, how that would occur physically through the chipboard and all that. There's definitely things through the charging circuit that could come desoldered. And then maybe I could see it doing that, but it's not like a use over time per se, like a charging cycle that caused it. It would just be a malfunction of the solder joint or something over time, if that makes sense, if I'm explaining that the right way.
I get what you're
Yeah,
trying
I
to
would.
like.
I agree with
Yeah.
Taylor.
Yeah.
I would think it would
So
be more of a hard part failure than
Yeah.
like a software type thing, where you would have like a corroded terminal or a desoldered joint or something like that would cause it.
So to expand a little more, so like over the years, right? I've personally had chargers to where I've noticed, after long periods of time or whatever, they would say they're getting to 4.2 volts, per cell, whatever, and call the battery charged. You stop the cycle, and then you can put them on a battery checker, and they might not even be 4.2 volts. Like they may be like 412 or something like that, right? So close, but not really there, not actually full. To where I've actually taken batteries over to Jim Lonzo, because he's always had an iCharger. You throw them on there, and it actually it's on the charger for another 10-15 minutes, balancing out the cells and peaking it off properly. To where
Now,
I don't, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know if that's just just circuitry in the charger that's not as high quality as say an iCharger or those sorts of
I
things. I don't know. Yeah.
do believe some chargers will come out of calibration, and
Okay.
I believe in recalibrating them. And if you're going to do it at a high level, you have a fluke meter. But most people aren't going to spend $3,000 on a fluke meter, or whatever it is that they cost.
It's not $3,000.
Yeah, it's way
It was
more.
No,
It's like
way-
15.
Well, hang on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What do you mean?
We have
like
a fluke at work. It's
multimeter?
15 grand.
no,
No.
it's a little bit more than just a multimeter.
What does it
Fluke
do?
is a brand.
I know Fluke
Yeah.
is a brand. We use Fluke. I mean, I have a Snap-on multimeter at work, but Fluke is a very good multimeter. But like, I know they do electronic products.
No,
So what the fuck are we talking
no.
about?
It's
What?
a calibration device.
Okay.
Yeah. That could be a different podcast. But
Yeah.
that's the ultimate way to calibrate that. I'm fortunate that one of my best friends had access to one, and we have one at work. So through the utility companies and things like that. So yeah. And then I usually calibrate that to one of my smaller chargers that I can just carry with me, and then use that charger to calibrate the rest of my other chargers I have.
So how do you calibrate though? Like what do you mean? Can you adjust the charger?
Yeah. I've never not had a charger where you can't adjust the voltage reading and recalibrate it.
Yeah.
Even my
I was
$40
gonna say, Mike,
Pocket Toolkit RC one.
What, Chris?
Mike just found that on his charger. Mike just found that. So he was going through his settings because it kept beeping when it was done, and it was killing me all day yesterday. And he was like, "Ooh, look, calibration."
Yeah.
They do have internal calibrations.
Yeah, my Gens Ace was off by about 1500ths or so. So at least from the factory. So I recalibrated that, and it's been good ever since. I've had it like roughly a year or so. It hasn't come out of spec from then.
So I'd be very curious to see where my iCharger sits, because I've never had any sort of issues with charging batteries from this charger, and I've had it for, like I said, 8 years now. So I'd be curious to see how close it is to where it should be, or how far off. And I want to know like how the quality is, because I mean, I just looked it up. It's like $330 in today's world. I have a 308. So it's $330 to buy a 308, and then you still have to spend 100, give or take, for a power supply. So, is it worth spending that much more money? Is my charger still in close calibration after 8 years of use and abuse? Or
I would say that your iCharger or most iChargers are very accurate and very close from the factory.
oh yeah,
I think this is a little bit of opinionated, but I just think some of the high-end chargers, the ones that are more expensive, do come a little bit better calibrated than some of the lower end ones.
and
But
that makes
not
sense.
saying that the lower end ones aren't capable. It's just the calibration could be off by a couple tenths or something like
Well,
that.
that's where the money comes in too. Now the factory's paying, 3 or 4 extra people X amount of money an hour to make sure they're calibrated perfectly, compared to other factories that aren't paying that person or whatever, to where they don't care how close they are as long as they're in the realm. So that's how you get the cheaper product or the more expensive product. Simple quality control things.
And then here's another complaint of mine for chargers is the beeping. I need to be able to set it to beep once, let me know it's done. I hate it's a small pet peeve when I'm in the pits and some a-hole across from me that I don't know has their charger and the batteries are done and they walked off and it just beep, 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 beep constantly.
So
Sometimes I'm so tempted to just walk over and then unplug it. So please don't be that guy in the pits if you're listening to this.
It's turned off now, Taylor. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Something I heard about. I'm pretty sure iChargers are like fully like unleashed in the programmable realm of the sounds they make. So like I'm pretty sure I could make my finished charging sound like basically anything I want. I never did any research on this and I could be wrong. But I'd love for the the tone to be like, "Daddy, it's done."
I was thinking, could we get like the final countdown, the entire song to play?
Oh my!
When one battery's done, you get the whole 3-minute and 40-second
Yeah.
song.
Or like Prince, November Rain, the whole like 8-minute song.
What's new, Pussycat? Just on repeat until you unplug it.
Absolutely.
Bird is the word.
All right. What else you guys got for chargers? I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm out too.
What else annoys the hell out of you guys for chargers? Anything else? Because I stated mine, it was beeping.
The power supply thing is kind of annoying. Like if your charger requires a power supply, it's kind of annoying because now it's another thing to pack, another thing to fail. Like I went through 3 power supplies in the last year.
You're the only one out of 4 people in here that are taking a power supply with them to the track now.
And it's like not a huge deal. Like it's there.
Yep.
And my charger is. I mean, well, now they make like the DC300 is so small and doesn't require a power supply. It's probably smaller than my small iCharger 308 Duo, and still doesn't require a power supply. But what is nice is like the RJ Speed. I think I have that power supply. It has a USB port on it to like charge your phone or whatever, and then the iCharger.
So does the D300.
Well, the
Yeah.
iCharger has one already too, because you can like put in your settings with a USB into the iCharger. But I can charge my phone off my iCharger, and my
What are
nicotine
you
addiction off the power supply.
What are you plugging your power supply into?
A wall.
So, do you have an extension cord, perhaps, or are you that close to the wall?
You always have an extension cord. It's always your
Yes.
little blue power strip.
And on that power strip, who has USB connections on their power strip?
Dude, fuck you. It's convenient.
It's literally right there where you're already plugging into. I'm staring at it on my table next to me. I have 5 USB connections.
It's the same price to buy a power supply with or without a USB, so like I'm just gonna get it, you know.
Well, I'm just saying this thing was like $12.99 off Amazon.
Okay, mine was $89.99 at LCRC or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Used to run a charger power supply. I used to run an ISDT P30, I think it was, and it used a regular power supply, 12-volt input, and it's a badass charger. I mean, you could sync the channels together and get like 60 amps worth of charging.
That's sweet.
It was nice.
Wow.
But I used it for a season. I had a power supply, and it blew out on me in the middle of the race, and I couldn't charge anything anymore. It would charge. It will start charging for about a minute, and then the power supply would shut off and kill my charger out. So from that point, I was like, more power supply chargers. I only buy 120-volt chargers now because I don't want that extra component to fail.
In today's age, and this can go back to the whole wattage thing we were talking about, but pretty much every power supply you buy off the market has like 3 or 4 ports on it, and I've done it many times, like Motorama or whatever, where Davey has a power iCharger too, and we'll just use the save connections. We'll use one power supply and charge both of our batteries with 2 separate chargers off of one power supply, and it's fine.
Crossing the streams, huh?
Yeah, crossing the streams. And my point is, if you have a power supply type charger, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be someone there with the power supply charger. You could bum their power supply or whatever. Or like for us, since we're lucky enough, and Jim Lonzo is in our Taylor, maybe not you necessarily, but besides LCRC, but Jim's trailer he has like a big boy, like adult version power supply for like, you know, big shit. So he has 8 different ports built into his walls of his trailer that are 12-volt positive and negative leads to plug your charger right into. So like, if my power supply ever shit the bed,
I mean,
I have somewhere to put it.
You could also, make your whatever your charger is, XT60 or XT90 input. You could also make a lead of that with banana plugs or alligator clips and clip them onto your car battery too.
Good.
It's just something else to fail that
and
you
you're
don't
right,
really
yeah.
need to have.
It certainly is. But, and then I agree. Yeah, it is another failure point. But, Mike, how many chargers have you been through in the last 8 years?
So I'd say
T60 to alligator clips.
Probably 3.
Or
Yes.
connecting to a battery.
Taylor, how many
I'd say
chargers?
probably 3.
Taylor, how many chargers have you been through?
I don't think I've ever broken a charger,
You
but
just
I
upgraded
have.
or whatever.
Yeah, and I still use all of them.
Okay.
All of them except for like the RTR type stuff, you know what I
Chris?
mean?
Oh, that's actually a good point there. I've only had one break. All of the other ones are I just wanted a new charger. So, like my oldest one
Never had one.
is still in use.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Mike,
I never had one break.
Mike, why did you want a new charger?
I told them
What was that, Chris? We talked earlier.
Sorry.
I said I've never had break, but I've always upgraded. Like I have a full RC 4-port one. I use it downstairs in my RC room to charge while I'm here, or if I didn't have something or whatever. I sold my Gen ZU, Mike, when I bought that one because the wire charger dropped, and I liked it, and I felt bad that I sold it to you, so I bought one. So I've never had one fail. It's just always an upgrade thing.
Yeah. So, Alex, back to your question to me, why I changed. Smaller, lighter, more powerful
Okay.
is why
So,
I upgraded.
and then I want to go back to how you said earlier, how it's nice because we're usually racing with Jim and he always runs an iCharger. So, like, at this point, what's stopping you from having an iCharger? Because in my eyes, like, you use it sometimes, like, for the extra bits and pieces, and you spent the money at this point to own one, and the only difference will be the power supply. Is that what's causing it, or?
So this is a multi-part answer, right? So the same reason why Jim is also wanting different chargers, smaller, lighter, just as strong, because like the Gens Ace D300 compared to an like the D300 is good enough,
Yeah, I
right?
completely agree.
That's why. It's because it's good enough. You don't need a $400 charger setup.
You don't.
That's why. So yes, I may have spent that much money over the course of the 8 years to. Well, actually, you spent more than $410 or whatever it is because you've said you just bought 3 power supplies.
Well, no, I bought
So-
2. Well, the original power supply was a used deal from Tony for like $20, and then
Okay.
2 identical power supplies in the past year. That comes out to just below 200 probably. So, and then I think
Okay, so-
initially they were. I think back then they were less than 300, but still, I mean, I'm probably around the $500 mark.
Yeah, so still I've never spent over, unless the Orion Touch Duo, if anybody remembers that charger, that was probably the most expensive charger I've bought. I think that one was $250 at the time. So that one to it's a Reedy 2-port to the Gens Ace is like my last 8 years. And the Duo, I actually got rid of that because my question earlier, like, have you guys noticed like things fading, right? To where it takes longer to balance, or it doesn't read voltages fully accurate anymore. That's why I got rid of the Touch Duo, because I noticed those things with that charger. So then I bought the Reedy charger from Tony because he at Kicking Dirt, he had his little shop in there, so I bought it there. That's when I bought that charger when Kicking Dirt was still around. And then recently, and I bought the Gens Ace from Chris because it was a really good deal. I couldn't pass it up, and he wanted an excuse to upgrade, so I bought it from him. Yeah, he did. He did. I was like, hey, I'll just give you, whatever for that charger. You've only owned it for a week, and he's like, all right, done. And then on our way home that night, he ordered his wireless charger. So, all right.
It's very rarely that I need an excuse to upgrade anything. I just like
But
to upgrade things.
It was the icing on
was
the
a
cake.
good-
It was
it
the
was
cherry
good.
on top.
Yeah, it was amazing because it was not much less than what I paid for it, but it still gave me the option to upgrade.
Yeah, you
was worth
saved
it.
me like 20 or $30, and you're like, cool. I used it for 2 weeks. I got my use. I got $20 out of it. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah. I didn't it wasn't like a smoking. It wasn't, what I mean. It wasn't like a $20 backdoor special or anything. It was like it saved me a couple bucks, and
I'd say my ISDT D300 is a downgrade from my last couple chargers, but it's my favorite charger because it's the most capable for the size and because I think it's so cost effective for the money. I'm cool with throwing it in the bag. It fits in here, my LipoSafe bag. I usually just carry my batteries with. I just toss it in there and I'll bring it to the track. I don't care that it gets pounded with dirt compared to my $300 and some chargers and power supplies and all the other stuff. And do I want to bring an iCharger or my ISDT one with a power supply, the big power supply? It's not going to fit my bag there. I'll have to put it in a different box somewhere. There's one time I was racing up at Macon Tracks. during the wintertime, and I had my power supply in the back of my truck on the way up there. 2-hour trip up there, and it's maybe 20 degrees at the warmest outside, and I'm sure it was probably negative something. I arrive at the track and I plug it in. There was a little bit of moisture on my power supply, and it pops, and it tripped the breaker. And then that was like one of the last times that I brought my power supply. My power supply and my charger were fine. It just happened to have just enough moisture in between the two terminals, the positive and the negative, that it's because it's like an open case to let all the heat out, that it just grounded itself. So that was one of the last times I brought a power supply to the track, and I bought the the Gens Ace one after that, and it's been my favorite power supply or charger because it's got a built-in power supply and the size. It's cost effective. To me, I know $120 might be a lot to some people, but I'll throw it in a bag, and if something happens to it, compared to, like, Alex, we're talking your $400 setup, like, it's a drop in the bucket compared to that. Relative.
Right.
Anywho's, now I'm done.
I'm done. DUN.
DUN done. Alright, that's going to conclude
Cut.
episode 2 of Bench Racing. Thank you, Chris, for joining us and giving us and the listeners some education. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, share, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that jazz. And get you guys on the next one. Goodbye.